Hello, it's Mary Cassoni, and today we're going to talk about social media. Now, chances are you're probably a social media user and you're familiar with at least a couple of the popular social media platforms. The prevalence of social media in our society is hard to miss. You can't go to a restaurant, a concert, or any sort of live event without seeing someone posting a picture to a social media website. So before we go too far, let's just specify what we mean by social media because social media itself is a pretty broad term. But generally, it refers to websites and applications that are platforms where users can share content and information and interact with each other. So, this includes websites such as Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, among others. Even things like GoFundMe, where people crowdsource dollars for charity or other events are considered social media. So social media is very, very broad. So let's get started, and I'm going to start with a story. I don't know if you know who this is. Okay, I will tell you who this is. This is me, and then this is my husband. And this is at an event that we were at last summer in Los Angeles. And the reason we were at this event, it was the launch of a special wine from a winemaker, Dow, is that my husband is actually a writer for the Coast News Group, and he's actually a computer programmer, but he also writes about wine. And he has an article in the Coast News. And if you don't know what the Coast News is, and you might not, it's actually a newspaper, and perhaps you don't know what a newspaper is, but it's a form of media that generally older people read, but this is the online version. And we also have a blog and some social media that broadcasts the content that we create. So anyway, we were at this event because we were covering different things so that we could write about them in the Coast News. And again, my husband writes it, but I am the editor. And in one of our events where we went to dinner and covered wine, we met a woman named Carrie, and she's actually a baker of the most delicious looking food. And here are some examples of it. And here we are at her house where we're sharing wine and dessert. And we ended up writing an article about this as well. And I love dessert. So here's a picture of me going, yum, 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 yum. I'm just so happy that I'm eating dessert. And she is called the Crosby Baker. And she says her products are made with love and baked with the highest quality ingredients. And they are. Often they're served at some of these kind of high end wine dinners where we go as like a specialty dessert. And here's her website. It's basically, she says that they're baked with love and the highest quality ingredients. Now, here's the funny thing. When we met her, she said, I don't do social media. She's kind of an older woman, and I can imagine she might not be familiar with the platforms, or she just doesn't think it's necessary. But interestingly, she's a local business. She has a very narrow and specific market. Her products are clearly better and they're beautiful than the competition. you know, these things here, being a local business, having a narrow market, having clearly better products that look beautiful, pretty much define the perfect product for social media. But she does not do social media. So I'm going to take a moment to define at least what I call doing social media. And the reason I also have some job descriptions here or job announcements for things like social media interns and social media managers is that your generation and anyone either at the community college or four-year college level, or if you're in your 20s, is so sought after by small businesses, big businesses, et cetera, to do social media because many businesses know they need to be doing something, but they just don't know how. So when we talk about doing social media, you know, I think Carrie, the Crosby Baker, should do social media because it is simple to get started and it's relatively inexpensive. Good social media can create value for the company or brand by creating value for the customer. Social media is one of the places in which we distribute our content. We might distribute MoFu content and then drive people to our website. And I actually say that these days it's table stakes, which means it's sort of like your entrance fee, into doing business. Like if you want to play in business, you sort of need to be on social media. Your customers expect to be able to find you at least on one, if not multiple platforms, the ones in which they hang out. And If you were hired as an intern or an entry level position as a social media person at a company, the important thing for you if you were going to help do social media is you need to know the platforms that the target audience uses. Do you remember the personas we created? And we talked about sources, where do they hang out? And some of you just said social media, but that's not enough these days because I mean things range from Facebook to Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn. And each one of these platforms has very specific user profiles and the kinds of demographics of people who use them. So just saying someone's on social media is just like saying someone watches TV. Well, you know what? There's tons of different programs and they're targeted to different people. So you as a social media person, if you're going to do social media, need to know the fine nuances among these. So generally what you would do if you're just simply doing social media is you are creating pages or profiles on those platforms for your company or brand. You are posting and replying, but most importantly, you're also monitoring and adjusting because, social media can be a 24-hour job in which you can't just dump and run and post and not reply. I mean, it's meant to be interactive, and I believe you know that. You've probably seen brands communicate with people on social media, both good and bad. Very important that you are available and understand that that would be part of your job if you are doing social media. And the benefits of doing social media is this again, this idea of being able to create value for the company. Social media lets you develop a very loyal community. It helps you improve your brand image, because often you can show what we call the human side of your brand or behind the scenes kinds of things that you don't see in other forms of marketing. You can actually show expertise or product quality, which is kind of related to brand image, but it's a great way to showcase certain benefits of your product or service or your company without it feeling like an ad. Because it's shared on social media. And again, a lot of companies do this with video or with images or with stories. And it helps you maintain what we call top of mind awareness, because those people who see a brand on social media often think of them first or before other brands when they're ready to buy something. And then other things that are obvious benefits of doing social media. You can improve customer service because customers will often go to social media right away to complain or to give kudos. And if you are there and you are monitoring, and there are lots of free tools for helping to monitor your brand on social media, you can respond to those quickly. You can get customer feedback and ideas by promoting engagement. You can actually have customers help you design your ad campaigns or your marketing campaigns. And perhaps you know this, but by being on social media, you can boost traffic to your website, and it also helps with SEO efforts and search engine ranking. So, again, doing social media these days to me is truly table stakes of being in business. And if you have a beautiful product, oh my goodness gracious, what that is just fantastic. Okay, I'm back to this slide again. The idea of doing social media is it's simple to get started, blah, 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 blah. But here's the funny thing about social media and about doing the basics of, creating the pages and the profiles and that kind of thing. Most people or most customers or people who would be your customers, they don't go to social media necessarily to sign up to see stuff from you, although some of them might follow you because they like your content, and that's why it's important to be a good content creator. They're really there to connect with friends, and even some of the big platforms like Facebook in particular actually tends to limit posts from companies. They'll show people posts from friends, but if you are a company who has a page, you're even creating the best content and you're trying to drive engagement, there's a very good chances it won't be shown. As a matter of fact, Facebook has an algorithm that's been in the news lately, but something you might be familiar with or not. This might help you if you ever go to become a social media intern or a social media manager. Text is the lowest form of type of post, followed by photo, followed by an uploaded video. So video will all get more shows in news feeds than anything with just a text or a photo. And again, not a YouTube link, but native video uploaded. And the idea of posting, if you're a company, is to get engagement. And engagement means that people are either liking or commenting, or the highest form of engagement, which is a share. That actually sends a signal back to Facebook and its algorithm that this particular post is liked, and to allow it to show more often in people's news feeds. So not all social media platforms have an algorithm, but Facebook, which is the biggest, does. And it's important to know that if you're trying to get engagement, Facebook is actually going to limit that unless you know that you're posting in such a way that you have the right weight, right? The right type of post, not text, but photo and uploaded video, and that you're doing everything you can to get comments and shares and likes, but comments and shares are better. And again, that's what we refer to as weight, what you post, and affinity, how people engage. And just as an example, I have another picture or another example of some social things that my husband and I did. These ones are actually for Palomar. A couple of summers ago, we went to an event to support. So it was it was Palomar College was supporting a children's event, and we were at the Park Hyatt Aviara. And if I just did my lowest weight text post, not very good. So it would be better to do something like this. Again, there's me and my husband with Congressman Darrell Issa at this event. And I think it shows that, I wish I had a ton more engagement than this, but, I have some engagement. But if I had turned this into a video, look what happens to the engagement, more than 1 million. Okay, I doctored that up, I must admit. But I'm using it just to show a point, is that what you post does matter, and that can actually help with engagement, which we call affinity. And this is on Facebook again, and on the type of platform that has an algorithm. So if some of the platforms are going to limit posts from you as a company, then many people have turned to running ads on social media platforms because they have been very, very, very effective, primarily because of how well they can target. So we're just going to talk briefly as a big overview about running ads on social media platforms. And here we go. So first, I'm going to use Facebook and Instagram as an example because they're the two biggest. They are fairly inexpensive and relatively easy to use, but the key thing is the targeting. See, because people are logged into Facebook and say so many things about themselves and make it very clear what their demographics are by their posts and who they like and what they interact with, the amount of information that someone like a Facebook and an Instagram have about its users enables them to help advertisers target very effectively. Better than Google, better than really any other kind of advertising. Facebook and other social media platforms have very, very, very strong targeting capabilities. And so when we advertise on social media platforms, there's actually a series of steps that you go through on what they call their ad manager. And I'm going to use TikToks because it's actually quite easy to use and to see. But most of the ad managers are very, very similar. And so, interestingly, the first thing they ask you to do is to choose your goal. And this is TikToks where they say, do you want to drive traffic to a website? Do you want to have app installs? Do you want to grow online sales? Do you want to attract new sales leads? But this is actually Facebook's and Instagram's. And I want to point out something that we've learned already. They want you to choose a campaign objective, same thing as a goal. And look at how they've divided into these three categories of awareness, which is kind of like tofu, consideration, and conversion. And so you can decide whether you want to get traffic, or you want to get brand awareness, or you want to get people to convert. So very, very interesting. Some of the terms that we've already learned in marketing are on ad managers, where you would pick your goal. What is it that you want to do? And then you actually select an audience. And again, the targeting capabilities of a lot of social media platforms are pretty incredible. So you would say some specifics about what you want. For example, if you're trying to go for Palomar, you would say, I only want people in maybe a 25-mile radius, and I want people between certain ages, and I want people who are interested in business or who have liked business things in the past. Maybe I want to select people who run a small business and target them with some of my business programs. So you select your audience, and then you set a budget. And what's nice about advertising this way again is you can say I only want to spend so much per day or per week, and once you hit that budget, the ads stop running. Then you design your ad, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But the design is actually goes along the basics of what we know gets people's attention, which generally tends to be some kind of image or video, some kind of headline, and then a URL that takes people to a landing page. And then the ad actually gets published, and then you measure your results, and then you might measure and monitor and make changes. And that's again the beauty of advertising in platforms like this. It's very, very quick and easy to make changes. So I have an example from both the Facebook now and Instagram ads about the kinds of ads that they offer. But again, the most basic is there's usually some kind of image, and the ad typically has three components, which is the same kind of thing we see in traditional advertising. There's an image, we call it a graphic in traditional advertising. There's a caption, we call it a headline in traditional advertising. And then there's a CTA, the call to action. And when you click on it, in this case, it's shop now, it should take you to, hopefully in this case, a page where you can shop, at least a landing page that I am expecting to see. And again, the beauty of this is your customers on social media, they're in their newsfeed, they see your ad, you got their attention, they decide to click, and bam, they are now taken to your website. And again, there's just some example of different kinds of ads that you can have on social media platforms. There are the carousel, which look like the shopping ads. It's almost like flipping pages of a catalog. There are video ads, of course, that I know you've seen, which are like a TV commercial. And then there are these nice slideshow ads where you can watch and see different versions of different shirts and t-shirts and whatnot. TikTok is one of my new favorite ad platforms because of the unique ways in which they engage their users. And so TikTok also has the video type ads and then in feed ads, but they have interesting things. For example, they have this branded hashtag challenge in which you actually invite users to create content that actually supports the ad. So it's really taking social media to the next level in which it's not just you creating the ad, but you're actually having users also create their versions of their brand content that's in line with your brand. And so it's actually really interesting what TikTok is bringing to the ad equation on the social media platform. And this week, I'm actually going to ask you to take a look at some websites that actually will help teach you even a little bit more about how Facebook and Instagram can help you with business. So I'm just showing you a quick snapshot here, but you'll see this week and next week the opportunity to learn a little bit more about how these ad managers work. And again, free tools. And so when you see these in your weekly assignment, definitely bookmark them and take the opportunity to learn what you can, because every one of these platforms wants to provide you with as much free content as possible in the hopes that soon you will become a paying customer. I hope you found this lecture useful as a primer for some stuff on social media, and I invite you also to refer to any textbook chapters, blogs, or other sites that I share to help you get up to speed on how social media can be used for marketing and advertising. Thanks.